I went to see one of my good friends, and we came up with this container. The problem is the water is taking way too long to heat up, because now this is my current container. You see, this container can fit inside that one, actually. So what I'm having to do, it would go down in there if it wasn't hitting on the terminals. So I may have to whack these off, and if I whack these terminals off, it's gonna slide down in there pretty good. But the problem with whacking them off is if I ever want to take this fuel cell back apart, I'll have to put new rods in here, which I'll do that anyway probably, because once you whack them off, when you undo them, the fuel cell will expand, and it won't never, the rod won't never, you won't be able to get a nut on both sides. But I was going to cut it off kind of high, maybe. I don't know how I'll do it yet, but if I get that fuel cell in there, the water will heat up much quicker. It'll use much less electricity, and this is the hang on a minute. There you go. This is what it did look like. And you can see, I can get my hand down here, my whole palm of my hand on that side and on that side. So that's how much water that I was having to heat up. And it was also like, I don't know, 2 or 3 inches above the fuel cell. Let me get a tape. There you go. And you're going to need to know this too, because that was exactly 2.5 inches, 2 3/4 above the fuel cell. And what happens is when you have water in here and it's fizzing and it's bubbling and you're trying to run your engine or whatever on it, the water's trying to come out of the fuel cell and get in your hydrogen line sets, and it's awful. You could run the water all the way down to the level to the top of the fuel cell and it'd still be trying to get out into your line sets. So just because of that reason, I may cut this one fairly tall, which will give me a lot of volume of hydrogen in here that could be dangerous. But that's just my ideal of it. And by changing this container to this container, the water will heat up a lot quicker, since there will be less water in here. But the downfall is I'm going to have to keep adding more water in here as it evaporates out, where this one will hold water and you won't have to add as much. So I think I'm going to take my chances on this one. This one's also stainless steel, so I don't have to worry about it rusting. And this one here was awful with rusting. And it's got a piece of plastic on the bottom too. I don't know what this thing was, if it was a cigarette thing or I don't know, but I know down in there it's sealed and I don't have to worry about it leaking. And let me get my rings. I got 2 rings. This is what's going to hold my this here's what's going to hold my that's what my nuts is going to go through to secure the top. I'm going to drill holes all the way around it, and I'm going to cut the center out, and I'm going to weld this to the top of the pan. And this is going to be my top. It's going to have a rubber gasket around it, and this is going to have holes around it. And I'm going to put my bolts in it, and this is going to be my output right here. So that's how the lead's going to work. If I wanted to take it apart, I'll just take all those bolts out, pull this lead off. I have a gasket place in town that will, they'll sell me a big old round gasket, and what I'll do is I'll get a butcher knife, I'll lay this on top of it, I'll take a butcher knife and I'll cut it all the way around that I've sharpened with a grinder, and I'll do the inside the same way. And we'll have a completely tight seal. And the gasket, this one's burned up. I did this gasket that way. This is actually rubber that they had given me. That's about 1/4 inch thick. I went around it with a butcher knife, and around the inside with a butcher knife, and I took a socket, I put it in a lathe, and I sharpened a Chinese socket, and I used it to punch out the holes with a hammer and a extension on the end of a socket that had been sharpened, and that's how I punched my hose. But anyway, if this comes off, it's no big deal. If it gets hot and melts off, I'll just weld me some legs on it and go from there. But our goal here is to get superheated steam coming out of the fuel cell, because it's promised me a lot. So there you go. Just keeping you updated on what I'm doing.